In the far reaches of the galaxy, explorers whispered of a place no one dared to enter. It was known only by a number, a cursed mark in the records of star charts, Class 15 Deathworld. To most species, even Class 7 worlds were unthinkable, planets filled with toxic storms and brutal wildlife that crushed entire expeditions. But Class 15? That was something beyond imagination. Entire fleets that tried to scan it were torn apart by magnetic storms. Machines melted under corrosive rains. Even unmanned probes often went silent, their signals devoured by the atmosphere as if the planet itself hated intruders. The legends grew with every passing century. Captains told stories in dark taverns about ships that vanished when they strayed too close, about creatures larger than cities, about forests that moved as if alive. Some whispered that the planet was not even a world, but a trap, designed by gods to swallow anything foolish enough to come near. None dared test these myths. To the galaxy, the Class 15 Deathworld was a graveyard. But then, one day, the impossible happened. A small probe, built by the Zorthan Empire, managed to survive entry. It broke through the storms, shaking and burning, but it did not fail. Its cameras flickered to life, its scanners pushed through the chaos, and it sent back data that made the technicians scream for their commanders. At first, the Council thought it was a trick, some error in the sensors. They saw strange shapes moving across the land. Beasts, yes, gigantic ones with teeth like blades and hides like stone. That was expected. But then the feed zoomed in, focusing past the storm, and what the aliens saw froze their blood. There were people, two-legged figures walking with calm steps, their clothes torn, their faces bare, their movement steady, as if nothing around them was unusual. The probe sent back clearer images. Small villages, built of stone and metal, stood firm in valleys where lightning split the skies. Smoke rose from chimneys, fires burned bright, and figures carried baskets of food. It was not chaos, not madness, but life. Entire communities existed where no ship could survive more than a minute. For the first time in recorded history, the council chambers fell silent. The legends had said the Deathworld destroyed all life. Yet here was proof of the opposite. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives of hundreds of species filled the chamber, their voices sharp, their bodies restless. The elder voice of the Athakar delegation was the first to break the silence. "This is impossible," it hissed. "No creature can live on Class 15. The gravity alone should crush bones to dust." Others shouted agreement. "The storms melt steel. The air poisons every lung. Nothing can endure such a place." But then the projection flickered again. The probe showed children laughing in the rain, their small hands splashing in pools that boiled with strange chemicals. A mother lifted her child into her arms, her skin exposed to the storms. She smiled as if nothing could harm her. The aliens gasped in horror. "What are they?" asked the Kaeldar representative, his many eyes wide with fear. "Prisoners of the planet? Have they adapted? Or are they something worse?" Debate turned into shouting. Some believed the figures must be artificial, machines disguised as living things. Others argued they were mutants, twisted survivors from some long-forgotten crash. But then the word spread like fire through the chamber: humans. One of the younger races. A species many thought weak, reckless, and fragile. The council erupted into disbelief. Humans? Impossible. Their homeworld is Class 4. They should be dead in seconds on such a place. Yet the probe did not lie. The symbols carved into the village walls, the language scratched into metal tools, the banners flying above homes, they were unmistakable. These were human settlements. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. For centuries, the galaxy had mocked humans as strange, chaotic creatures who rushed into fights they could not win, who traveled into black holes for no reason, who laughed in the face of things other species considered terror. But this was different. To live on a death world, to build families there, to smile under skies that burn machines to ash, it meant something the galaxy could not yet understand. The council's chambers echoed with fear and questions. The Velar Prime Minister leaned forward, his voice shaking. If humans live here, are they suffering or thriving? Another whispered in reply, what if this world is not a curse to them, but their natural home? Arguments raged through the night. Some wanted immediate warships sent to contain the humans, to prevent them from spreading whatever power let them survive. Others begged for peace, claiming that if humans truly thrived on a Class 15 death world, then perhaps they were not just another race. Perhaps they were something far more dangerous. The probe's last transmission only deepened the terror. A storm tore through the village, winds strong enough to level cities. Lightning lit up the screen. The council leaned forward, expecting screams, destruction, death. But instead, they saw humans walking through the chaos, their torches still burning, their voices calm. Children pointed at the lightning as if watching a show. One figure stood tall on a cliff, a spear in his hand, staring straight at the sky as if daring it to strike him. The feed cut to black, but that last image stayed in every alien's mind. The Class 15 death world was no longer just a legend. It was real. And worse, it had rulers. The galaxy had feared the storms, the beasts, the poisons. But now they feared something far stranger. Humans lived there as if it were nothing. Were they prisoners of a nightmare or the masters of it? The council chamber was restless after the shocking probe footage. No one could forget the image of humans standing calm in storms that shredded machines. Across the galaxy, rumors spread like fire. Traders whispered about humans walking on the most cursed world in the stars. Soldiers spoke of legends returning to life. Scholars argued in endless circles. If humans lived there, what else could they endure? At last, the council made a decision. Someone had to go and see the truth with their own eyes. The Zorthan Empire, whose probe had first captured the images, volunteered a ship. But they did not send their strongest battleship or their best warriors. Instead, they chose a small research craft, fast and careful, with a crew of 6. Their orders were simple: land on the Death World, confirm the presence of humans, and leave before the planet swallowed them whole. The ship was called Silent Star. Its captain, Varric, was a hardened explorer with skin like polished stone and eyes that never blinked. He had seen worlds of fire, oceans of acid, and moons filled with swarms of metal insects. Yet even he trembled when the Death World came into view. From orbit, the planet looked alive. Clouds twisted in storms bigger than continents. Rivers of lightning danced endlessly, striking land and sea. Dark forests spread across continents, their trees so massive they pierced the clouds. And in the oceans, vast shapes moved beneath the waves, shadows longer than mountains. Even from space, the crew felt the world's hatred pressing against their minds. The navigator's voice shook. Captain, scanners show constant seismic activity. Gravity shifts faster than our systems can calculate. This world is unstable. Varric nodded, but said nothing. He had read the probe's last message, humans smiling in the storm. If they could live here, then so could he, at least long enough to see. The descent was brutal. Winds smashed against the hull, tearing at the ship like claws. Alarms screamed as the Death World's magnetic storms tried to rip the engines apart. For a moment, it seemed the legends were true, that no ship could pierce the veil. But then, through the chaos, the clouds broke. Below them stretched valleys of green fire, plants glowing with strange energy, their leaves sparking in the wind. Animals the size of towers moved among the forests, their hides glowing like molten stone. The crew gasped in terror, their hearts racing. Yet amid this nightmare, something stood out. Smoke. Thin and gray, rising into the sky. The ship followed the trail, engines straining. And then they saw it. A settlement. Stone houses with metal roofs clung to the cliffs. Fires burned in pits. Figures moved among them, humans. Dozens of them, working calmly, as if this world were no danger at all. Some carried bundles of glowing plants. Others repaired tools that looked battered, but functional. Children ran barefoot across jagged rocks that would slice through alien flesh. The crew could not believe their eyes. They live," whispered the navigator. "Not just survive, live." The captain ordered the ship to land outside the village. It was madness, but their mission demanded proof. The Silent Star descended into a clearing. The ground shook violently, cracks opening in the soil, but the ship held firm. As the engines cooled, silence fell across the crew. None moved to open the hatch. They could all feel the weight of the planet pressing on them, as if the world itself wanted to crush their bones. But then, a sound cut through the storm. Footsteps. The crew peered through the viewing window. A group of humans was approaching. They carried spears, bows, and tools, but they did not rush. Their movements were slow, cautious, steady. One man walked in front, tall, his face weathered by storms. He wore no armor, no mask, only simple clothes torn by years of struggle. His eyes locked onto the ship with no fear. The hatch hissed open. The storm's air burned like acid in alien lungs. The crew coughed and staggered back, their suits barely holding. But the humans stood tall, breathing deeply as if the poisoned winds were nothing more than fresh air. The tall man stepped forward. His voice was rough, but the words were clear, translated quickly by the ship's system. "You do not belong here." The captain, Varric, forced his voice steady. "We came to see how you live." The man studied them, his expression unreadable. Behind him, children watched with curiosity, not fear. The sight alone broke the aliens' minds. On any other world, children were protected, hidden away from danger. But here, they walked into storms, laughing untouched. "You call this a death world," the man said, his tone calm, almost amused. "For you, perhaps it is. For us, it is home." Lightning split the sky, so close the ground shook. The crew flinched, but the humans did not move. The tall man raised his hand, pointing to the storm. "The world tests us every day. We do not fight it. We endure. And in enduring, we become stronger." The captain swallowed hard. He understood now why the council feared this. If humans could thrive in the deadliest place known to the galaxy, then there was no limit to what they could survive. The man leaned closer, his eyes burning with quiet fire. "You came here to witness. Now you must decide. Are we prisoners of this world, or its rulers?" Before the captain could answer, a roar shattered the air. From the forests, a beast emerged, larger than the ship itself, its body covered in armored scales, its mouth filled with fire. The crew screamed in terror. Their weapons would do nothing against such a monster. But the humans did not run. The tall man turned calmly, lifted his spear, and stepped forward. And the galaxy's question deepened. The roar shook the mountains, rolling like thunder across the valley. The crew of the Silent Star froze, their hearts racing. From the forest, the beast came into view, each step cracking the ground beneath its weight. It was larger than any ship they had ever flown. Its hide gleamed like dark steel, armored with jagged plates. Fire dripped from its jaws, each breath sending sparks into the stormy air. The aliens panicked. Their scanners screamed warnings, showing power levels far beyond anything they had faced. "Captain, we must retreat," cried the navigator. "Our weapons cannot pierce that hide." But outside, the humans stood firm. Not one moved to run. Children clung to the arms of their parents, but no one screamed. The tall man who had spoken before lifted his spear and stepped forward as if he had faced such beasts many times before. His calmness was more terrifying than the monster itself. The captain's hands shook. "What are they doing? That thing will tear them apart." The tall man turned briefly toward the ship, his voice carrying over the storm. "Watch." The beast roared again, charging forward. Its claws tore through the soil, each step sending waves of dust into the air. The ground shook so hard the Silent Star nearly toppled. The crew screamed as the monster closed in. But the humans did not scatter. Instead, they spread out, moving with slow, practiced steps. Spears raised, bows drawn, eyes fixed. Then it began. The tall man darted forward, faster than the crew thought possible. His spear struck between two armored plates on the beast's chest. It roared in rage, flames spilling across the ground. But instead of fear, the humans pressed harder. A dozen spears struck, arrows flying into cracks in the armor. Children shouted directions, pointing to weak spots as if this was a lesson, not a battle. The crew could hardly breathe. They had seen elite soldiers fail against creatures half the size. Yet here, ordinary villagers moved as one. Each strike precise, each step sure. They did not fight with panic. They fought with patience, timing their blows with the beast's movements. Still, the monster was too strong. With a swipe of its massive claw, it sent two humans flying across the rocks. The crew gasped, certain they were dead. But the humans rose slowly, blood streaming, and rejoined the fight without hesitation. Their endurance seemed endless, their will unbreakable. The captain whispered, almost to himself, "They are not prisoners of this world, they are forged by it." At last, the tall man gave a shout. The humans fell back, forming a circle. The beast, enraged, lunged forward. And then, with perfect timing, the tall man hurled his spear. It struck deep into the creature's open mouth, piercing through to its skull. The monster shuddered, staggered, and with a final roar that shook the heavens, it collapsed, shaking the valley. Silence fell. The storm still raged, but the air felt heavy, sacred. The humans stood over the fallen beast, their faces calm. Some began to cut pieces from the creature, harvesting meat, hide, and bone as if it were nothing more than a resource. Children laughed as they carried glowing scales, treating the beast's death as routine. The crew could not comprehend what they had seen. For them, this was a god of destruction, a nightmare that no technology could face. For the humans, it was dinner. The tall man approached the ship again, his clothes torn, his skin burned, but his eyes steady. He wiped blood from his hands before speaking. "Now you understand." The captain struggled for words. "You killed it. With wood and stone. We could not, our weapons," his voice broke. "How do you survive here?" The man tilted his head, studying the aliens with quiet pity. "We do not survive. We live. This world tests us every day. It is cruel, yes. But cruelty teaches. Pain teaches. Weakness dies. Strength remains." Another human, a woman with scars across her arms, stepped forward. "Your kind fears this place. You see storms, poison, monsters. We see a teacher, a forge. Every day, we grow sharper. Every day, we grow harder." The crew shivered. Their kind built armies with steel and fire. But here, the humans had built warriors with nothing but suffering and endurance. The tall man's voice grew lower, almost a warning. "If we can master this world, do you think there is any place in the galaxy we cannot master?" The crew exchanged terrified looks. The meaning was clear. If humans could thrive in a place that killed machines, storms, and monsters, then they could thrive anywhere. Before anyone could answer, a horn sounded in the distance. The humans turned, their eyes alert. The tall man frowned. "Another hunt begins." He looked back at the captain. "Stay if you wish. Watch more. But remember this, you came seeking the truth. Now you carry it back to your council. Do not lie. Do not soften it. Tell them what you saw." The captain could only nod. His hands trembled as he closed the hatch. Inside the ship, silence reigned. Every crew member knew the galaxy would never believe their story, yet none of them could forget it. The ship's engines roared to life, lifting off into the storm. As they rose, they looked down one last time. The humans dragged the monster's carcass toward their village, children climbing its massive body as if it were a playground. The image seared itself into alien memory. The Deathworld was not cursed. It was not uninhabitable. It was a cradle, a crucible, and from its fires, something far more terrifying than the storm was rising. Humans. The council chamber was silent. Dozens of alien races sat in a great circle, their banners glowing above them. Screens flickered, showing the images the crew of the Silent Star had brought back. The storm, the beast, and the humans who killed it. None of the counselors spoke at first. The sound of the monster's last roar still echoed in their minds. Finally, a deep voice broke the silence. It belonged to Chancellor Varen of the Drow. His scaled hands trembled as he pointed to the screen. We all know that creature. It is catalogued as an extinction-class predator. No army has ever defeated it. Not even our fleets. Yet these humans cut it down like harvesters cutting grain. How is this possible? Murmurs spread across the chamber. Some leaned forward, their eyes shining with fear. Others hissed in denial. The council had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but this broke the natural order. Counselor Reth, a tall being with shimmering silver skin, slammed his hand on the table. The recording is false. No primitive species could survive on a Class 15 Deathworld. They would die in a day. But Admiral Threx of the Zorian snarled. His voice carried the weight of a warrior. I believe it. I have fought humans before. Small skirmishes. They are stubborn, reckless, hard to kill. If they have been living on that world, then it explains everything. The Deathworld has forged them into something unnatural. The room filled with shouting. Some demanded war immediately, others demanded quarantine, while a few called for peace and alliance. Counselor Nira, a soft-voiced being from the peaceful Sarai, rose to speak. Look closer. The humans did not just kill the beast. They worked together with precision. Even their children were part of the fight. What species trains their young to face death before they can even fly or speak fully? If they can raise generations like this, their numbers will be unstoppable. The council shivered. Her words cut deeper than the images. The prime speaker of the council, a massive creature with 4 eyes and a voice like rolling stone, finally raised his hand. Silence fell. The question before us is not whether humans can survive. We have seen it. The question is, what will they do with such strength? A screen changed, showing the tall human leader's words. If we can master this world, do you think there is any place in the galaxy we cannot master? The words hung heavy. A threat. Or perhaps a prophecy. Admiral Threx leaned forward, eyes blazing. I say we strike now. Before they leave their death world. Before their strength spreads. A fleet can burn their settlements from orbit. Do not let them grow. But Counselor Nira shook her head fiercely. Strike them?
Did you not see?
Their world itself fights against ships. The storms, the magnetic fields, the creatures. Even probes are destroyed. An invasion fleet would be torn apart before it even lands. Others nodded in agreement. The Death World was not just a planet. It was a shield. Any attack would be suicide. Another counselor, Elder Zahn of the Scholars, raised a trembling finger. Perhaps we should not think of them as a threat. Perhaps we should think of them as teachers. If they have found a way to thrive in such a place, should we not learn from them? Their knowledge could strengthen us all. Gasps filled the room. The very idea of learning from primitives shocked many. Counselor Reth shouted, You would kneel before savages? They eat beasts that could devour armies. They breathe poison and call it air. If they step off that world, the balance of the galaxy will break. The debate raged for hours. Voices cracked, threats were thrown, alliances shifted. Some demanded peace. Some demanded war. Some whispered of containment, to lock the humans within their nightmare planet forever. At last, the prime speaker raised his voice again. Enough. We will vote. Lights across the chamber flickered as each counselor cast their choice.
War. Peace. Quarantine.
Alliance. The results appeared in the air, glowing for all to see. And the council divided. No side held a clear majority. The prime speaker closed his eyes. So be it. The humans will remain to question. Some will prepare to fight them. Others will prepare to speak with them. And some will watch and wait. But remember this. Whatever path you choose, never forget what you saw today. As the chamber emptied, whispers filled the halls. Fear, curiosity, hatred, respect. all mixed together like storm clouds before lightning. Far above, in the hidden corners of space, fleets began to move. Some armed themselves for battle. Some sent emissaries in secret. Others sent spies to the Deathworld, hoping to learn more before it was too late. But all shared one truth, unspoken but heavy in their hearts. The galaxy had always feared the Class 15 Deathworld. But now they feared something far worse: its children. The galaxy could not stay divided for long. Weeks after the Council split, the first ships arrived at the edge of the Class 15 Deathworld. They were not explorers. They were warships. The Zorian fleet led the way. Black, spiked cruisers bristling with weapons. Admiral Threx himself stood at the command deck, his armored claws gripping the railing. His eyes glowed with hunger. "We will not wait for humans to escape their cage. We will break them now." His fleet carried thousands of soldiers, ready to storm the surface. But before they even reached orbit, the Death World struck. Storms roared like titans across the planet. Lightning arcs tore through the sky, each bolt powerful enough to fry the circuits of entire ships. The Zorian fleet fought to hold formation, but the magnetic storms pulled their vessels off course. A cruiser spun out of control, its engine screaming before it vanished into the thick clouds below. "Stabilize," Threx barked. Engines to full, shields at maximum. The fleet pushed harder, inching toward orbit. But as they drew close, their sensors screamed warnings. Massive heat signatures rose from the surface, things moving within the clouds, larger than any beast recorded. The soldiers grew uneasy. Then the first strike came. Out of the storm, something massive leapt, wings stretched wide, claws like blades. A sky predator, taller than buildings, slammed into a Zorian warship and ripped into its hull. The ship shuddered. Soldiers screamed. Fire poured into space as the beast tore its way through the vessel like it was prey. "Kill it," Threx shouted. Beams of plasma lit the sky, burning holes through the creature's body. It shrieked, tumbling into the storm, but not before dragging the ship down with it, both vanishing into the planet's fury. Panic spread. The Death World was fighting back. But the Zorians were not alone. From the shadows of space, another fleet appeared, sleek silver ships with peaceful banners. The Sarai had come. Counselor Nira herself was aboard their flagship, her voice calm as it echoed across the channels. "Zorian fleet, withdraw," she commanded. "You cannot fight this world. We came to speak, not to destroy." Threx spat into the calm weakness. "The humans will crush you first, and us later. Stay out of my way." But the Sarai ships did not retreat. Instead, they deployed small pods, peace envoys shielded in glowing orbs, drifting carefully toward the planet's surface. The Zorians fired warning shots, but before the fleets could clash, another voice cut across all frequencies. A human voice. The sound was raw, deep, and carried across the void like thunder. "Foreign ships. You enter our skies without invitation. Leave now, or the planet will decide your fate." Every soldier froze. Even Admiral Threx's blood chilled. The voice came not from one human, but many, broadcast in unison, a chorus of warnings. How are they transmitting?" a Zorian officer stammered. "Their technology should not reach us." Nira's eyes widened. She leaned closer to the screen. "They are not using technology," she whispered. "The storms themselves are carrying their words." Below, the cloud shifted. Lightning forked in patterns, forming symbols no alien had ever seen before. It was not random. It was language. The humans were speaking through the Death World itself. Threx snarled. "Tricks. Nothing more. Fire on their settlements." His flagship's cannons turned, targeting one of the human outposts detected by the probe weeks earlier. Plasma flared, and then vanished. The shot never reached its mark. Instead, the storm swallowed it, bending the beam until it curved back. The Zorian ship that fired was sliced in two by its own weapon. Gasps filled the fleet. Terror spread. From the surface, humans appeared, dozens of them standing on cliffs, their bodies outlined by lightning. They raised their weapons, crude yet glowing with strange energy. Children stood beside them, calm and fearless. The storm itself seemed to bend around them, shielding their forms. The chorus of voices spoke again. We are not prisoners of this world. We are its kin. You see storms, we see sky. You see poison, we breathe life. You fear the beasts, but they fear us. This world chose us. And if you step one pace closer, it will end you. The Sarai envoy pod stopped, hovering just above the surface. Counselor Nira whispered, almost in awe, "They are not surviving the death world. They are commanding it." Admiral Threx slammed his fist in rage. His pride would not allow retreat. Charge the surface, for the glory of the Zorians. But before his fleet could descend, the storm cracked open. A bolt of lightning struck his flagship directly, splitting through its shields, its hull, and its engines. The ship erupted, fire scattering across the sky like falling stars. Threx's roar of fury was the last sound his crew heard before the flagship was swallowed whole. The remaining Zorian fleet broke. Ships turned, engines flaring as they fled the Death World's orbit. Only the Sarai remained, their silver ships holding steady in the storm. Nira bowed her head toward the humans far below. We come not to fight. We come to learn. The lightning flickered again, softer this time, almost like a reply. The storm opened a narrow path of calm skies, guiding the Sarai envoys down. The galaxy's first contact with Death World humans had begun. But across the stars, word spread fast. The Zorian fleet had been broken. The humans had spoken. And for the first time in galactic history, a Death World had defended itself, not as a curse, but as a weapon in human hands. The galaxy trembled. The age of humans was rising. The storm eased, but the silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Above the Class 15 Death World, the Sarai fleet hovered cautiously, watching as their envoy pods descended through the narrow corridor of calm sky. The Zorians had fled, their broken ships leaving trails of fire across the void. But the real question remained. Who were these humans truly? Counselor Nira stood at the window of her flagship, her eyes fixed on the planet below. We are about to meet the impossible, she whispered. Her voice carried both awe and fear. The envoy pod touched down on a cliff of black stone. The surface shook underfoot, alive with hidden power. When the doors opened, Nira and her guards stepped out, only to find themselves surrounded, not by soldiers, but by families. Men, women, even children stood waiting. Their clothes were simple, woven from hides and strange metallic threads. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim stormlight, not with technology, but with something deeper, connection. One man stepped forward. His face was weathered, scarred, but his stance was strong. He carried no weapon, yet the storm bent around him like a shield. You came, he said. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of mountains. Most run. The Zorians tried to conquer, but they did not understand. You seek truth. That is why you are still alive. Nira bowed, her heart racing. I am Counselor Nira of the Sarai. We came to warn you. The galaxy will not leave you in peace. They see your world as a weapon and you as a threat. The man's lips curved into something between a smile and a grimace. They are right. We are a threat, but not in the way they think. He raised his hand, and the clouds parted. For the first time Nira saw it, the ruins. Stretching across the horizon were colossal remains of ancient cities, their towers half buried in storms, their walls etched with carvings. But unlike the crude shelters she expected, these ruins shone with designs older than any empire she knew. These structures, Nira gasped. They are not yours. They are, the man replied. But not from this age. Humanity has walked the stars before. Long before your empires rose. Long before your kind learned fire. We left traces, then we vanished. This world is not a prison. It is our sanctuary. A place we chose, because no one else could survive here. The Sarai guards shifted uneasily. You mean humans have been hiding? The man nodded. Hiding, watching, waiting. Every empire grows, believes itself eternal, then falls. We saw it countless times. We learned the cycle. And so we chose to step aside, to wait until the galaxy was ready to understand. Nira's breath caught. Then why now? Why reveal yourselves now? The man's eyes burned like the storm behind him. Because the galaxy has found us. Because warships have entered our skies. And because the cycle is ending again. He gestured, and the ground beneath them rumbled. The cliff split, revealing a cavern below. Nira peered into the depths, and her blood ran cold. Inside, lined in endless rows, were ships. Human ships. Not crude machines, but vessels woven with the same storm energy that ruled the planet. Their hulls pulsed with living light, as if they were part machine, part world. Thousands of them, waiting. Her guards whispered in disbelief. A hidden fleet untouched, impossible. The man's voice was steady. This is not a fleet for conquest. It is a reminder. We never left the stars. We chose silence. But now, silence is over. Nira took a step closer. Her throat tightened. If you unleash this, the galaxy will burn. The man shook his head. If we unleash this, the galaxy will change. No empire will rule through fear again. Not the Zorians, not the Sarai, not any. The Deathworld taught us balance. You cannot control storms. You live with them, or they destroy you. We will bring that lesson to the stars. For a moment, there was silence. Then the storm cracked above, revealing the stars. And in that silence, the truth sank deep. Humans were not survivors of a cursed world. They were guardians of an ancient secret. They had been here before. They had chosen to hide among storms until the galaxy forgot them. Now, they were returning, not as conquerors, but as something worse to those who ruled, as equals who could not be controlled. Nira bowed her head slowly. The galaxy is not ready for you. The man's gaze did not waver. Then the galaxy will have to learn. Above, the hidden fleet stirred, their lights flickering to life. Across the stars, whispers spread. Of the Zorians broken, of the death world humans revealed, of ships older than empires awakening. And in every palace, every throne, every war council, fear settled like a shadow. For the first time, the rulers of the galaxy realized the truth. Humans were not trapped on a death world. The death world was theirs. And through it, they would rise again.